Good morning, Sedona. It is Saturday, April 6, 2024, and this is Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks, Red Rock Country's radio magazine, heard every Saturday at this time on Mellow Mountain Radio, KAZM 106.5 FM and 780 AM. I'm your host, Stephen Hanks, and I welcome you to a radio show that tries to explore all the fascinating aspects of life and engages with intriguing personalities in Sedona and the Verde Valley area. Today's show and all of my shows until the end of May are being sponsored by an outstanding local real estate company. Damien and Danielle's Sedona Village Real Estate Group with Coldwell Banker Realty should be your go-to real estate agents in the Sedona area. Why, you ask? Because their experience in Sedona and the Verde Valley and their dedication to this community matter. And you guys in my listening audience should know that spiel by heart at this point, because I do it every show that they've been a sponsor. Today, my producer behind the glass is not the ubiquitous Ryan Thompson, but the owner of Mellow Mountain Radio, KAZM, Chuck Helstein. Chuck, it's great seeing you behind the glass today.
What's up, brother? Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great. So you notice that once again, I'm wearing my Sedona Red Rock High School baseball uniform in the studio. That's permitted, right?
I feel underdressed, actually, right? Like I should have got a baseball jersey or something.
Exactly. I got to get you a Sedona Red Rock baseball hat.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
You should get one of those. Yeah, okay.
It'll hide my balding head.
And right after the show, like the minute the show, well, maybe 2 minutes after the show's over, I have to bolt over because my team has a game today at 11 o'clock. So thankfully the field's only 5 minutes away. So Chuck, this is already our 9th episode of Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks, Red Rock Country's radio magazine.
Time flies.
I know, right? And so far, we've presented shows focusing on a variety of subjects, such as this, featuring you as my very first guest. Remember that?
It was a good one.
We followed that with shows about the Sedona International Film Festival, an interview with celebrity Lucy Arnez, who performed at the film festival, local business networking with the Sedona Referrals Club, a show previewing the Sedona Yoga Festival. Recently, we presented episodes devoted to local theater, the 2024 prospects for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and gun control and safety issues, which begs the question, which one does not belong? It just occurred to me. Today's show will be the first one, hopefully of many in the future, devoted to music, one of my favorite topics in the world, specifically classical music. And our guests in the studio today are the artistic director and conductor and the board president of the Sedona Symphony, formerly called the Verde Valley Sinfonietta. But before I introduce my guest for an in-depth discussion of Sedona's Sublime Symphony, it's time for our top of the show segment that you all know is called Stephen's Sedona Scene, when I tell you all about some exciting events happening over the next week in Sedona and the Verde Valley. So on the second Thursday of every month, the Sedona Heritage Museum presents a program called Sedona Stories. And on April 11th, from 10 to 11 a.m., the museum's storyteller will be my great friend, Patrick Swice, who for the past 20 years has been the executive director of the Sedona International Film Festival. Patrick will take folks on a journey through the history of the festival from its humble beginnings as a 2.5-day festival to now a 9-day extravaganza. He'll also talk about the festival's year-round programs at its Mary D. Fisher and Alice Gill Sheldon theaters, which screen films and host other cultural activities year-round. The program at the Sedona Heritage Museum to see and hear Patrick is free to attend. Also on Thursday, and every Thursday through June 13th, you can experience Fiddler on the Rock. And I suddenly want to break out singing tradition, but I will refrain from doing that. Fiddler on the Rock is a one-man violin concert experience from classically trained symphony soloist Tyler Carson. Tyler will play original violin arrangements of classic pop songs, such as Stairway to Heaven, All Along the Watchtower, The Lion King / The Lion Sings Tonight. I guess that's going to be a medley, right, Jana? Yeah. And even some dueling fiddle on The Devil Went Down to Georgia. I don't know how you do it doing fiddle when you're the only performer, but Fiddler on the Rocks happens at the Hub at Posse Grounds from 6:30 to 8 p.m. There's comfortable seating at the indoor venue with room to dance and 360-degree views of the Red Rocks. Tickets are $30 at the door for adults, $10 for children over 8. For more information, go to tylercarsonmusic.com/Sound of Sedona. Now, for the most part, during Steven Sedona's Scene segment, I talk about events coming up during the week following a Saturday show. But I wanted to flag this one further in advance to make sure you get it on your calendars. From April 26th to the 28th at the Verde Valley School's Brady Hall in the village of Oak Creek, you can experience the 9th annual Piano on the Rocks International Festival, led by festival artistic director and featured pianist Sandrine Erdely-Seo. The theme of this year's festival is an homage to Gabriel Fauré, an extremely influential French classical composer during the latter part of the 19th century. During the 3 days of free, and I specify free shows, all starting at 4 p.m., residents of Sedona and the Verde Valley will experience examples of Fauré's music, as well as of composers such as Schubert, Ravel, Haydn, Rachmaninoff, and more, all played by excellent pianists. For more information, go to pianoontherocks.org. And finally, tomorrow at 2:30 p.m., at the Sedona Performing Arts Center, the Sedona Symphony will perform their fourth and final concert of the 2023-24 season under the direction of artistic director and conductor Jana Himes, who is in the studio with us today. The concert features guest artist, flautist Jeanette Hirasawa-Moore. As an added treat, several string players from the Sedona Community Youth Orchestra will play side by side with the symphony. The April 7 concert is sponsored by Sedona resident Sue Buffin, who is also the current Symphony Board president. Ticket prices are $15 to $65, half price for children, and are available on the Sedona Symphony website at sedonasymphony.org and at the door tomorrow afternoon. And that has got to be the perfect segue into introducing my guest today, who I just mentioned and who are, as those of us who know some Yiddish say, are the big machers of the Sedona Symphony. Current Sedona Symphony Board President Sue Buffum has served in that role for 3 years and joined the Symphony Board in 2018, a year after moving to Sedona from the New York City area. Sue's current term as president of the Symphony Board is up at the end of June, so I'm sure she'll tell us a lot more about the changes with the Sedona Symphony operation. Jana Himes was named as the new artistic director-conductor last April when the symphony was still called the Verde Valley Sinfonietta. Jana was chosen from a field of 99 candidates who applied for the position, which is pretty impressive, I would think. They didn't round it off to 100. I don't know why, but I would do that because I'm anal about those kind of things. Born in New York City, Jana is a Fulbright Scholar, a recipient of the 1999 Geraldine C. and Emery M. Ford Foundation Grant, and a prize winner of the 1998 International Conducting Competition in Besançon, France? Besançon. See, I'm not talking enough to my client Margot to get my French together. She studied under such prominent conductors as Leonard Bernstein, which is very impressive to me, Gustav Mahler, Otto Werner Muller, and Gunther Schuller, and holds degrees from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and the College Conservatory of Music of the University of Cincinnati. Ladies, welcome to Sedona Life with Stephen Hanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But before I talk with our guests, I'd like to play a brief audio clip from a past symphony concert that might give our audience a little idea of the kind of excellent musicianship they can hear at tomorrow's 2:30 p.m. concert at the Sedona Performing Arts Center. This is from the Sedona Symphony concert on October 15th, 2023. It's the final section of the Mozart Piano Concerto, number 20 in D minor, and the guest soloist at piano is Sean Chen. Wow. There's nothing like starting a Saturday morning with a little Mozart, right?
Right.
Yeah. Wow. So Sue, I want to start with you. A lot of our listeners may not know much about the history of the symphony. I know I did some research. It started as the Verde Valley Chamber Orchestra in 2002. In 2005-06, it became the Verde Valley Sinfonetta, and now it's the Sedona Symphony. So tell us a little bit about the history as you know it, and also why the name change in the past year.
Sure. Well, the organization was started by a couple of Sedona residents who were musicians, not professional, and they wanted to have a local orchestra. So they put it together and got more interest in it. In about 2005, as you mentioned, it changed the name to the Verde Valley Sinfonietta, filed as a 503c not-for-profit organization, and started getting more into hiring up professional conductor. The concerts were initially held in a couple of local churches, first Church of the Red Rocks and then Rock of Ages. And then the audience began growing and decided that they needed to move to a bigger space. So I think it was 2008, maybe. I'm not sure the exact date. We started playing at the Sedona Performing Arts Center, and we've been there ever since. And it's it's a wonderful facility for us, for a auditorium that's associated with the high school. It's the nicest that I've seen.
Yeah, it's a great location for that. I saw one of the recent shows, and it's a beautiful place for a symphony to perform.
Right, and so we're really happy to be able to perform there. Over the years, we've been increasing our, I'd say, professionalism and our capabilities, the quality of our musicians, and we continue to do that. And that last year or the year before, when we were going through this process of auditioning for new conductors, actually one of them suggested to us, "Why are you called the Verde Valley Sinfonietta?" And we realized nobody really knows Verde Valley outside of this area.
Right.
And a sinfonietta, most people are just not familiar with that word. And, okay, what is it?
I know, actually, now that you're saying it, I realize I've been mispronouncing it.
So we decided to change the name to Sedona Symphony. It reflects on our home. Our home is here in Sedona. And also, I think it has a kind of a nice alliteration, Sedona Symphony.
Yeah.
It sounds
And I was
really
able
nice.
to call it the Sublime Sedona Symphony.
Exactly.
That was nice.
Yeah.
And we've gotten a lot of really positive remarks about it.
Yeah.
And now we've had a trouble with name recognition, frankly, but now with Sedona Symphony, we find that it's
it's a no-brainer in a way.
no-brainer. Yeah. And even today, you have your baseball uniform on. I have my Sedona Symphony T-shirt on. And
Janet didn't come in uniform, obviously. I don't know. She's from out of town.
but she does have her T-shirt.
I do, and I have it with me here. So
Yeah. So that was really the main reason behind it.
Yeah, that made a lot. So I understand that it's technically, because of the size of the symphony, it's actually a chamber orchestra.
Yeah.
So explain to the listeners, so what's the size of the symphony? Why is it considered a chamber as opposed to something else?
Well, we generally play with about 36 musicians maximum. I think we can go up to maybe 40 depending on what we're playing. But yeah, a full orchestra, Janet can tell better. They can be up even over 100 players at times. We are primarily strings, woodwinds, not really the only percussion we generally have is timpani. We add some percussion other times. But, we don't have, the big, bombastic size orchestra that would do things like, Mahler or, Bruckner or things like that.
Right.
And so there's a lot of music that's developed specifically for the smaller orchestras. And it would be very difficult, frankly, for us to get enough musicians to do that. And we don't need to do that. Chamber music is wonderful.
So beside the name change, and we'll get to talking about Jana and how you chose her and why you chose her, but what other changes have you been making the last year or so? I know there was one thing you mentioned at the last concert I attended about the backdrop on the stage?
Yes.
Any other things
Yes.
going on?
Well, this past year, and starting with this season, we have had an acoustic shell in the auditorium, which is basically, several large panels that go behind the orchestra, and they tend to help, centralize the sound and bring it out more forward into the audience. And it also helps the musicians; they can hear themselves better.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's been a big improvement for us. And we make it available to other organizations who would like to rent the shell from us. And Chamber Music Sedona is doing that now. And they found it's made a really great difference for their performers as well.
Right.
So that was an investment for us, but we think it's one that was well worth it because it's really improving the quality of the music in that hall. Yeah.
Any other changes in the works, or especially while you're still in the position?
Yeah, well, we've just hired an executive director to help run the day-to-day operations of the symphony. And that individual will be starting in a couple of weeks. So there'll be some transition time between me and her as we go through this process, and of me, kind of retiring from the board, if you will.
But are you still going to be involved?
I will be involved. We'll see whether the board decides to put me on their advisory board.
Right.
That's the decision that they will make. But I'm still here in Sedona. I still will love the symphony, and I will support it. So,
will there be a new president replacing?
Yes, there will be a new president replacing me. But we've been up until now run primarily as a volunteer organization run by our board.
Right.
And that's just become pretty difficult because we have expanded. We're trying to do some, more music. We'd love to be able to expand. Like this year, we're doing a more Pops-like concert. We'd like to do more of that in the future. So we found that we really need some help to really, run the organization on a day-to-day basis. So that's one change that we are making.
So tell us about the decision to hire Jana as the artistic director and conductor last year. With 99 candidates, you didn't interview 99 people.
No, we did not interview 99. It was really a global search. We had people applying from Japan, from Europe, from South America or Central America. So it was really pretty impressive, the amount of interest. And I think a large reason was it's Sedona. I mean, everybody loves Sedona, has heard of Sedona. So we were able to, through a couple of iterations, weed that list down to, some people we could just eliminate pretty quickly.
Right.
Then we set out to quite a few people. I think it was over 30, maybe 40, some additional questions to get more input from them. Then we did Zoom interviews with, I forget how many, maybe
How long was the process?
10. The process was over a year.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while.
Yeah, I bet.
And then we finally got it down after, some Zoom interviews to 4 finalists. And Jana was, certainly one of them. And each finalist was chosen to direct one of our programs on the season of, I guess that was, 2022, 23.
Oh, they got a test concert?
They got a test concert.
Wow.
Yes. And Jana was our last auditioner in April, just about a year ago now.
Yeah.
And we had a committee that involved, our search committee involved, some members of the board, some musicians from the organization, and one prior board member who was a musician.
Right.
So we had a number of different parties involved in.
So that season of shows, you ran your season, but each show was
Yes.
conducted by a different person who was a candidate.
Yes.
Wow.
And they picked what music they wanted to perform, and they also selected the guest soloist.
Oh, wow.
That was going to perform with them.
Really
So,
interesting.
so after the last concert, we met pretty quickly because we had to make a decision quickly. And Jana was pretty much our unanimous decision.
So can you tell us a couple or 3 qualities that the board and the selection committee noticed in Jana that made them make the decision?
Yeah.
And I know this is kind of a layup question, but I think people who don't know a lot about classical music and don't know about the process of how you select somebody to be a conductor,
Yeah.
might be interested in what the variables are that you look for and what she brought to the table.
Sure. And I should also mention that we did surveys. We surveyed, the board. We had surveys that went out to all the musicians, and we surveyed the audience after every concert
Interesting.
to get their opinions. And so those all factored in. But a big thing was, how did each conductor interact with the musicians? Were they easy to follow? Part of it was their selection of music. And did it make sense for our orchestra? And personality. Did we feel that they would get along well with the musicians going forward, as well as with the board? So those were all factors that came into play.
Were all of them, like Jana was at the time, conducting other symphonies, or were any of them like at large? They were between gigs?
No, they all had other symphonies that they were conducting. And I think, at least one other. And I think one had a couple of jobs that they were holding at that time.
Wow, that's great.
And we also, we would listen online to hear them at other venues where they might have been conducting. So there were a number of factors that went into it.
So even though you're not going to be board president after June, you're still going to be very involved. So as somebody who is so deeply immersed in the symphony and what it's trying to accomplish, what additions or changes would you like to see going forward that you feel, besides the hiring of the new executive director, do you have a wish list of things you'd like to do?
That I personally would like to
that
do?
you'd like to see the symphony do?
Yes. What I would like, I would love to see us, we're on a good financial footing, but I would love to see us, get more financial support. We could always use more of that. That would help us put on, potentially put on more concerts, hire, we already hire great soloists, but, continue to do that. And
right.
that always can be a little bit more, a little bit more money. And I would like to get our presence in the community known better.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more that we could be doing in terms of, reaching out, doing, maybe smaller little, local, I don't want to even necessarily say concerts, but bring some of our musicians out into the community more, and not just be known as doing concerts at SPAC.
Right.
So that would be one thing. And we don't have a great presence on social media. Frankly, most of us on the board are, we're senior citizens here in Sedona and are not big.
The word people use is Luddites.
Luddites, yeah. So we're not as big a presence probably on social media. And how do we reach people?
Right.
And that's been a struggle. And because we're an all volunteer organization, it's just something that we haven't had the time to really focus on.
In the time that you've been involved, what's your feeling about just the reaction in general to classical music in this town? I mean, do you have do you feel there are a lot of classical music buffs? Are there people that do love classical music, but for whatever reason are not getting out to the shows? What's your take on the audience?
I think there is a lot of interesting classical music here. You've got, our organization, you've got Chamber Music Sedona, you've got things like, Piano on the Rocks and, and this, the other, Red Rock Music Festival, I think. And so there's definitely an interesting classical music here.
Right.
I don't think it's still surprising to me, people who are not aware of it. I was just talking to someone the other day who'd said, oh, gee, I didn't know there was a symphony here. When I lived in Santa Fe and San Francisco, I always had season tickets. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. But they don't know about us. And so that's a little bit of a frustration. And how can we change that?
Yeah, well, I know that Patrick Swice at the film festival gets really good audiences when they do live at the Met. So there's definitely the interest in opera and classical music, and that's great. And if one of your goals is to get the message out about the symphony, it should grow even more. So
I hope so. And plus, Jana has been great. She's really met a lot of people in the community and they've all had a very positive impression of her and would love to work with her. And so I think we can build on that as well.
Yeah.
And that would be super.
And that's another great segue because I'm going to be talking to Jana next. But before I do that, I have to give a shout out to my sponsor, Damien and Danielle Sedona Real Estate Group, who are going to be my sponsors until the end of May, hopefully further if I can talk them into going, beyond that. I hope they're listening now and are going to give me a call. Nestled in the heart of our breathtaking Sedona, husband and wife Damien Bruno and Danielle Gian have not just lived but flourished for more than 20 years in the Verde Valley. As pillars of the village of Oak Creek, they've raised a family, volunteered tirelessly with the Rotary Club of Sedona Village and the Sedona Village Partnership, and for a decade have been the proud organizers of the beloved annual community barbecue in the village of Oak Creek. And by the way, as an aside, Damien and Danielle have asked me to MC the annual community barbecue in May. And it's going to actually happen the day that they're going to be on the show as guests. So they're going to do the show, and we're all going to scramble over to the village of Oak Creek to get ready for that barbecue. And also, KAZM may be a presence at that. Is it definitely happening? Oh, Chuck is giving me the thumbs up.
We'll be there, man.
Awesome. Yeah. So Chuck and Ryan are going to be out there with KAZM playing tunes for the crowd. But back to my sponsors. Damien and Danielle aren't just your next real estate agents. They're your neighbors, your friends, and a top Sedona team ready to support you, whether you're buying or selling. With 2 decades of real estate expertise and a love of our community that's second to none, Damien and Danielle Sedona Village Real Estate Group is the go-to business for your real estate needs. They want to make your Sedona dream a reality. So contact them today at SedonaRealEstateAgents.com because community and experience matter. And with that, I'm going to talk with my other guest in the studio, the esteemed artistic director and conductor. I'm pumping her up because she's a New Yorker and, we stick together. So Jana, the first thing I think would be great for you to talk about is the show coming up tomorrow. Give us some details about that and what people can expect to hear.
Okay. So it's great to be on your show. Thank you
Great
for having
having
us.
you.
It's so great to be here. So we are opening with a beautiful piece by Ravel. It's based on Mother Goose stories. It's a suite of 5 movements, and they're very short. But what's so beautiful about this music is that you can actually visualize. So, for example, one of the movements is Beauty and the Beast, and you can, and I'll talk to the audience a little bit about it. So they have a visual when we play it. It's just beautiful French music. I mean, impressionist music that is very floaty and very just sort of sublime. And then we're playing actually 2 pieces. One has 2 movements. Jeanette Moore, who's our principal flutist, will be playing a Telemann piece and a Tchaikovsky piece, and she's a really beautiful player. She plays in the orchestra and has this ability to blend and really suit everybody who's around her. I think she's the leader of the wind section, actually. But when she steps forward to play these pieces, she's just a true virtuosic soloist. She's just really incredible musician. So excited about that. The Telemann is very, Baroque, very kind of stately, but her part is very flourishing and gorgeous over the orchestra, and we sort of accompany her in that piece. And then we're playing a beautiful Tchaikovsky aria, and she just somebody said that every time they hear it they're crying during rehearsal. I hope that's because it's so beautiful, and I think it's because it's so beautiful. So that's really exciting. And then after that will be intermission. And then after intermission, we're inviting the Sedona Community Youth Orchestra on stage to play the Forêt Pavane, which is absolutely gorgeous. Really looking forward to having them join us. It's, we call these side-by-side concerts where we bring another organization on the stage with us. So we're going to have about 15 or 18 students on stage with us, and we'll rehearse that today.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, were you doing the foray because of the 100th anniversary?
No, but now I know. When you said that, I couldn't believe it. Yeah,
I
it's all
thought
tying in.
you were
Yeah, I know. I know. So that's really cool.
Great timing.
I know. And then we're doing, I think you said Hayden, but it's Haydn.
Oh, excuse me.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We're doing his last symphony, 104, which is absolutely brilliant. Every movement is perfect. It's will probably be very well known to a lot of our audiences. And I just want to say, we were talking before about classical music. You know, I always call it orchestral music because sometimes we'll play music that's not classical. So we might play Schindler's List, or we might play something, you know, not from a movie, but that's very current.
Right.
And so I always like to call what we do orchestral music because I think that that reaches more people. So when you think about like anybody, you know, they go to the dentist or they go to get their car washed and the music's pumped in. A lot of times it's orchestral music, but it's, you know, it might be the Beatles, you know, or the Bee Gees or something. So I'm really into presenting our orchestra as we play music. You know, we play music for everybody and we want everyone to feel welcome. Our tickets are totally affordable and it's it's never stuffy. You know, we want to welcome everybody and bring your kids and just come and just get lost for a couple hours with us.
Right. You know, when you mentioned the thing about orchestral music, I am a huge Elton John fan.
Yeah.
And I believe it was 1987, he did a concert where a lot of his major hits, at least the ones that were very heavily produced, had the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra doing all those songs.
Think about the Beatles.
Yeah.
I mean, they were the first ones to do that with George Martin. I mean, it was amazing. And then think about the brass and the band Chicago.
Right.
You know, I mean, so bands who did that were really making a fusion experiment that really worked. So
now, before I get a little bit deeper into your story, and you're getting hired by the symphony, I saw in the paper yesterday that there's also going to be a concert on April 27th that wasn't part of the season, but is in addition to the season. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we got a city grant. And so at the time when we were doing our scheduling, I think we weren't really sure that was coming in. So when we got the grant, we added the Pops concert and we're bringing Arne Kai, who is really just the most amazing Native American flutist. And this is all new for me because I don't really know this music that well, but I've immersed myself since we've engaged him. And he's just amazing. I mean, I'm so excited to meet him, and he's legendary. You know, he's really well known. He's probably the most famous of this instrument. And so to be on stage with him will be a real honor for me, and I'm looking forward to it incredibly. We're doing a lot of arrangements that he arranged, and then the orchestra's playing a few pieces on their own, like Ashokan Farewell and some Americana pieces, but really looking forward to collaborating with him.
That's great. That's great. Do you expect to have a number of Native Americans attending that?
I hope we have a full house for that because it's such a unique thing to have him on our stage, and he's really well known.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to shoot this out at random because it fascinated me. I saw a picture, I believe it might have been on your website, of you with Leonard Bernstein.
Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, wait, let me back up. It was with Michael Feinstein.
Oh, yeah.
You had a picture with Michael Feinstein, who I know well from the cabaret world in New York. Also a huge Al Jolson fan like I am. Yeah. But so tell me about how you know Michael.
So for 6 years, I was with the Carmel Symphony in Indiana. And the Carmel Symphony plays at the Palladium, which is a really beautiful hall. It's about 10 years old. It's one of the most beautiful new halls in the country. And but it's like a mini Lincoln Center. So there's like a little black box and there's kind of a medium-sized theater. And then there's the big hall where we would play. But there's a theater company. There's a dance company. You know, there's a lot going on. It's really kind of a cool area. Michael was the artistic director of the whole thing. They brought him in because they wanted to put up a songbook museum, which I think they're building, a songbook museum. And they wanted a name that was really huge that people would recognize, that would bring, this sort of, I don't know what the word is, but this,
gravitas.
Excitement. Yeah, gravitas to the area. Of course, I thought my name would do that. No, I'm kidding. No. So they brought Michael in, and he comes in like 4 times a year, and he does a concert, at least 1 or 2. Wow. So my second or third year, I thought, okay, we have to do something with Michael. And I was a little nervous, and I don't normally get nervous, but Michael, who really doesn't read music, but he's like an amazing artist. And he is just so incredibly talented because it comes from in, and he knows the lyrics to 5,000 songs.
He knows every song in the Great American
but it's like,
Songbook.
it's kind of like, it's kind of eerie, right?
Yeah.
And he's just a little different, right? And so I thought, oh, I just want him to like me because I really love this music. So we were doing, Frank Sinatra, and I grew up with all this music. So we did the rehearsal, and I'm looking at him, and he's, during rehearsal, he stopped a few times. He goes, let's go a little faster. Okay, whatever. So after rehearsal, he came up, he gave me a hug. He goes, you get this music. You really get this music.
Wow, that's great.
And that was a big compliment to me because he wouldn't have said that. And I said, I grew up with this music. My parents listened to Frank Sinatra. They listened to all the big band stuff. And so I loved the concert, and I loved performing with him. And I was recently on a podcast. He invited me on his podcast about, I don't know, maybe it must have been like right before the summer. And it was at the library. Not the museum's not built yet, but there's a library of all this music that he owns, scores and scores and scores with orchestra parts that have never been played.
Yeah.
He's got like complete collections of famous musicians.
There have been documentaries where he's been on, they've shown his library at his home. It's just incredible.
Well, this is now, all of this music's in Carmel. And what he did was, he laid out like 5 pieces of music. He didn't tell me what they were going to be. And we just went through them and talked about them. And what was cool was like one was just piano. And he said, how do you conduct this? And so I had to talk about how I would approach it. And then one was for full orchestra. I had, I've Got You Under My Skin, the original, in pencil in front of me.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I could have erased it and changed the notes. Wow. It was amazing. I was like going, I can't believe I have this in front of me. It was incredible. And so we went through that score, and we talked about all this different music that was just, it was so amazing. And yeah, he's pretty much a genius. And I love being on the show with him.
That's
I love
great.
That. Yeah,
I love that story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to hear.
Yeah.
So Leonard Bernstein, I have a friend, music director friend named Mark Janis back in New York, who plays tons of cabaret shows for performers, who also plays classical piano because that was his background. I once, he was the producer of an open mic show in New York where one time he had me as a guest performer. And he had this segment called Classical Corner, where in between all of the singers, he would take a segment and he would do some like little, kind of like Bernstein's, young people's concerts, where he'd explain something. And the night that I was the guest, he played on piano without a chart the entire Rhapsody in Blue, which is one of my favorite pieces of music of all time. And he was a protege of Bernstein when he was younger. So when I saw that you had a connection, what was that? Was it?
Yeah. So this is a great story. So I went to Tanglewood, and it was in 1989. And just to get into Tanglewood is like impossible. So everyone who's at Tanglewood is pretty talented and has been very competitive to get in.
I've heard that about Tanglewood. Yeah.
But it's like, and your teacher was Leonard Bernstein, so everybody wanted to be there. Mm-hmm. Now, my brothers, who are a little older than me, they went to the young people's concerts. I wasn't at the age, so I just knew that he had conducted the New York Philharmonic. I wasn't really, but I was studying conducting, so I knew him as a conductor, but I didn't experience the young people's concerts. But so we get to Tanglewood, and he's not there at the very beginning. We're there with the regular teachers, and then Bernstein's coming to conduct. And so there were 12 students, and we picked numbers to see who would conduct for Bernstein. So I got number 6. I mean, I remember this like it was yesterday. It was in 1989. So there were 2 women in the class. The other woman was Jeanette Sorrell, who conducts Apollo's Fire, which is a Baroque orchestra in Cleveland, and very, very well known. So she always wanted to do Baroque music, and she was this little petite redhead who just wanted to play harpsichord and do Baroque. And I wanted to conduct orchestras. So, and then there were 10 guys, the 2 of us and 10 guys. So the first conductor gets up. And well, first of all, Leonard Bernstein walks in, and now he died the next year. So he was, not in great shape. He had a towel on his shoulder. There was a guy behind him with a thermos.
Was he still smoking?
Smoking. There was a guy with a thermos, and I don't think the thermos had coffee. I don't know. I'm not sure. But so he came in, and we were all like, I mean, he was short, but he filled the room. His presence filled the room. He just walked in, and we were silent. Yeah. It was just like greatness walked in, and all he did was walk in the room. So the first guy went to conduct, and he stopped him, and he made comments, and the second person went, and finally gets to me, and he stopped every single person and made comments, and he was very, very genuine and generous and kind. So when I got up to conduct, I just never forget that. I was doing a Brahms symphony, and I started to conduct, and I got about 2-3 minutes into it, and he didn't stop me. And I realized after about 4 or 5 minutes, he didn't stop me. That's all I'm thinking about. He stopped everybody. He didn't stop me. He must hate me. This is terrible. So my head is going through, wait, I got to conduct the music, and Leonard Bernstein doesn't like me. So I'm conducting, and I get to the end of the music, and he's like at the end of the movement. He's sitting maybe 10 feet from me. And he gets up and he comes up and he takes my hand, my whole face in his hands, and he kisses me right on the lips.
Oh, wow.
And I'm shaking. I'm literally shaking. And he looks at me and he goes, "You can do this." He goes, "You can be a conductor." He goes, "We have work to do. We're going to do it this summer, but you've got it."
Do you think he was ahead of his time in terms of his acceptance of women conductors in?
I don't know. I don't know what he was, but I'll tell you, I was like, I melted on the floor. I couldn't believe it. So class was over, right?
Yeah.
And we all were just like, and everyone came up to me and they're like, "What did he say?" Because he said it right to me. And I told them, and they're like, "I can't believe that. It's amazing." So the next day we go to class, and there's now the next 6 people have to go. And he comes in and goes, "I want to start with Jan again." Well, the other 6 people didn't get to go yet. So now I do Tchaikovsky, Romeo and Juliet, same thing. And the rest of the summer, I was by his side all summer. I had pictures with him, and he was amazing. And we talked about music. We talked about the industry. We talked about everything. I think he was definitely ahead of his time. I mean, he was hanging out with, guys from Harlem. He was sexually very active and kind of promiscuous. He was very experimental in everything. I think he did drugs. I think he drank a lot. I think that he was, I didn't see the movie, but I mean, he was very, very experimental. So a woman conductor would be nothing to him.
Yeah, because at the time that you were having this interaction with him, it was almost impossible for a woman to get a conducting job for a Broadway musical.
Well, I can tell you one thing. There are so many women conductors right now. In fact, Nick Kanalakis' sister, who's a very well-known conductor, just conducted the New York Philharmonic this weekend and got a great review in the New York Times, which is great. But I mean, she's 41, so when this was happening, I'm not sure she was even born yet in 1989. I have to do the math. So it's much easier now for women. And I think it's fantastic.
Great,
I think that there are women, and I wouldn't really put myself in that, although maybe, but like Marian Alsop and Joanne Falletta, a little bit older than me and a little bit, conducting major orchestras, and they've paved the way, for women. So I think it's great.
Yeah.
I had 2 kids. I had some things that I did as well as conducting. I really always wanted to have a very well-rounded life. I think Karina might have some kids, but I think that when you combine having a family and having a career like this, where you're on a plane every other day and your life is just always moving, back then it was just not done, really.
Yeah.
So
I want to talk to you a little bit more about specifics about this symphony. When I could be wrong about this observation, but I'm sensing based on the different shows in the season, do you try to have a different instrument as the featured soloist?
Yeah. So this was I'm just ending my first year. So my goal, which is kind of in my head, I don't really know if many people know it, but my first plan with this orchestra was to play some pretty standard repertoire and get them at a certain level artistically. So work with them on some like Haydn, Beethoven, some very standard repertoire that they might know, and also some that they might not know, but to get them to understand me a little bit and where I am musically. So Ravel can't sound like Haydn.
Right.
It's got to have a really different sound. And so we're always working on the music. I'm just pushing their limits a little bit. I think most of them are on the same page with me and liking it. I think others are a little bit more nervous and kind of like maybe not there, but yeah. So we like to feature a different guest artist. So I don't want to have 3 violin soloists. So this year or next year we have a bass player, we have a violinist, a pianist, and a cellist.
Right.
And I think people like that. They want variety. I mean, if you're coming to the symphony, you don't want to see the same concert you saw the month before.
Right.
You want to see something different. And as I get to learn the orchestra, which takes a year, at least a year, to learn your musicians, I will start to then, I think, program even more, a little bit more adventurously.
So when you're figuring out what music to pick, not only in a season but in a specific show, are you thinking more in terms of what the orchestra is going to be comfortable with, or do you also have to consider what the audience is?
I'm always thinking about the audience.
Yeah.
Always thinking about the audience, because if they come and it's all I conducted in Costa Rica a while ago, and they said, okay, here's your program. They gave me the program. It was all Beethoven. Well, Beethoven happens to be one of my favorite composers. I mean, just amazing music. I probably wouldn't program that. I did it, and it was really amazing. It was great fun, but I don't really know if audiences love that so much. I think people like variety, and I think this is a different age. Where people's attention span, I don't care what age, is about 3 seconds. We know that from Instagram. People, their fingers are going so fast. If you don't grab them within, I would say 5 seconds. So if you do all Beethoven, you have to know that everyone's coming to hear Beethoven.
Right.
So,
but there's so much out there that you have to pick from. I mean, I'm always fascinated by as a producer in the cabaret world, where you're always putting a jigsaw puzzle together of what, especially in a variety show. I mean, how do you focus in and decide what the programs are going to be, what musicians are you going to feature? There's so much out there.
I guess, I have lists and lists and lists at home. I have so many notebooks and scraps of paper and in my head of soloists. We have a soloist coming next year I've wanted to work with probably for 4 years. She's finally coming. I'm really excited about it. So there are pieces that I want to do there, and I'm thinking about this orchestra and I'm thinking about this town. So I don't necessarily... for 15 years, I conducted the Williamsburg Symphony in Williamsburg, Virginia. It was a very similar orchestra to Sedona. So this size orchestra is very familiar to me. So I know a lot of this music. I've also conducted really big orchestras. I know that music as well. But this is a certain style of music with an orchestra that's about 40 players. As Sue said, we're not doing Mahler. We're doing repertoire that was written for orchestras of this size. And I'm also thinking about Sedona. I'm learning the community. So I definitely think there are people here that love the music that we're playing. And I think that it's not just the music that we're playing. If we can get out there and have energy and have a cool message and have a great marketing that's kind of pizzazzy and fun, they're going to come.
Right.
It's about, hey, come and hear us. Let's spend 2 hours together and then you make your decision. But I can pretty much guarantee you're going to have a great time.
Yeah. Sue, since you're here all the time and so many people in the community, especially the people that are into classical music, do you get residents coming up to you like in the street at a show saying, hey, I want to hear more Wagner, or I want to hear, like, why don't you play this? Do you get that?
No,
much?
I have never gotten that. What I have gotten is people coming up to me and saying how much, and this is, could be days after a concert, wow, I really loved that concert on Sunday or whatever.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's people I don't know, but when they hear I, am involved with the symphony, they'll make a comment to me.
Right.
And that's always really special.
Yeah. What kind of feedback have you gotten so far, like in interacting with audiences?
Yeah. Well, the audience, you can feel them on stage. It's palpable.
Yeah.
And when I say that, when I'm on stage, I'll just say, I can feel you guys. It's the hall, it's the shell, it's where they're sitting, it's the lighting. We can just feel the energy. And we play to that. So if an audience is very lukewarm, we feel that on stage. But I haven't felt that here. I feel that people really appreciate the hard work, and it is hard work. It's rehearsals are tough. They're not like sit back and enjoy. Let's just play the music. Oh, that was great. Let's take a break and have some coffee. It's kind of not like that. It's never like that. Especially with me, because I'm always reaching for better and better and better, and you're never going to get there.
Right.
You're never going to get to perfect. Right. So, and we have a little bit of, our orchestra's a little uneven in a way. We have some like Jeanette. I mean, she's so professional and amazing. And then we have some different levels of players. So while I love that, I have to work with that. And so, you have to find the common denominator. But it's a really good orchestra, and I think that they're learning about me. Like, I'm hardest on myself. And when things don't happen, it's just I want the music to be so balance and in tune and, together and all that stuff. And so I'm always working on that. And I'm listening different than they are sometimes. Well, probably all the time, because I know every single part that's being played. So, I mean, we work hard, but then when we're on stage, I think we let loose and we play, for the audience, and we can feel the energy. But yeah, I'm getting really good feedback and we're getting nice reviews. So that helps.
That's great. This is a question for both of you about the musicians. Do you get local musicians coming to you saying, how do I get to be in the symphony? I think I'm good enough to be in the symphony. Like what kind of process?
Well, we
is
have
there
somebody that
about
helps hire. So there are some players that have been in the orchestra for a long time, and there are some players that are new to us. One of the things I think that's interesting is that, there's music that we could play that isn't for chamber orchestra if we added strings. So if we had a really full string section, there's some repertoire we could play with the winds and brass that we have. But right now we keep it at 12 violins. We've had since COVID, I guess maybe it is, or maybe not. Maybe it's been a little bit past COVID. We've had some issues finding string players to come. When I auditioned a year ago, I did Beethoven 7th, but I only had like 6 or 7 violins. It was a very hard concert to do.
And what's it called for?
Well, way more than that.
Oh.
I mean, like at least triple that. And
Wow.
and I didn't know if I could pull it off. I had never experienced that before, and I thought, wow, I don't know if I can do this.
She did though.
We did do it. But I was wow, that was a challenge. And
Do you have to work on arrangements in a situation like?
no, I just had to work on balance, and I just had to get the violins to play their guts out. I mean, Beethoven 7 is one of his later symphonies, and it's pretty full, and that last movement is rocking. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the precursor to rock and roll, frankly, the last movement of Beethoven 7. And I said that to them. I said, this is rock and roll, guys. You got, and it was great.
Well, the Beatles did roll over Beethoven.
They
so
did.
you're
Well,
right.
and there's a reason. So anyway, and it's funny you say that because it all connects. And that's why, to say, well, we play classical music, it's all kind of connected.
You talk about connection. Isn't there famous stories about Leonard Bernstein having cocktail parties and playing Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club
Yeah, and
Band
also he did all
friends?
that for the kids on the
Yeah.
young people's concerts. He
Oh,
would
the-
take Beatles songs and he said, listen to this, and he would
Right.
play them and that's how you get kids. You get kids by playing Star Wars and Frozen, and the new Disney movie. You don't get them by playing, listen to this beautiful Brahms melody. Well,
Or the Ring Cycle.
you're not gonna grab them unless you told them the story. They might like that.
That's true.
Yeah.
So when I do kids concerts, I talk about like, well, it doesn't matter, but I mean, I always bring it to like what they just had for lunch, or the last Disney movie, or what sport they're playing. I always bring in those kind of analogies because then they get it. Then they get it. And I did a whole concert on form, and I talked about on Tuesday you might have peanut butter and jelly, and then I was talking about rondo form, and they got it. They were like they just got it. They were just so great. Anyway, getting back to the symphony, I think that we are going to see incredible growth with this orchestra. And
That's
already
great.
this first year, I've just seen amazing things happening. So I'm really excited.
Do you have your 24, 25?
Yeah, that's done,
season?
and we're going to be announcing that very soon.
Yeah, it's gonna. Well, we'll have it out on Sunday at the concert.
Oh, well, great.
Yeah.
That's terrific. So I want to ask you like personal stuff, not deeply personal, but when you're in Sedona, do you get any time to experience the town when you do?
Yeah.
Like what are your favorite things to do when you have
Well, I go
downtime?
hiking.
Yeah, you
I
like
love to
hiking?
hike. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to go yesterday, but I thought it was a little cold. Now I'm spoiled. I like it like 71 and sunny. I would like to play golf when I'm here, but I haven't done that. I would like to play pickleball.
Hit
but I haven't
hit
done
me up when you're here and you can play golf.
that. What about pickleball? Do they have pickleball here? I want to play
Yes.
pickleball.
I know they have it in the village of Oak Creek.
Okay.
At the golf course, they have some courts.
Yes, and they're
right?
expanding the courses
Over here?
over here on the Posse grounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hot right now, and I play in Maine a lot, so that's
Okay.
fun. Yeah, and then I walk around the village. I'll just go to the shops and then people say, "Oh, what do you do here?" And I tell them. I always tell people what I do, and if they're tourists and they're going to be here through Sunday, I'm hoping they might come to the concert. So
Right.
yeah, I'm like a little walking marketing person.
So down the road, I mean, I know you have this season planned out, but are you already thinking about? Oh, I'd love to bring this piece of
always.
music in. Yeah, it's
Always.
constantly on your mind. Yeah.
Also, excuse me, next year's our 20th anniversary. And then, of course, it's our country's anniversary in 2026.
Right.
1776, right? Am I doing
Right.
that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's 250th.
Right.
So I'm thinking
You got
about
something
that.
big plan for that.
Well, I'm thinking we should.
Yeah.
We need to do something big. And next year we need to do something big for our 20th. So I'm always thinking, my father could never understand. My father used to do the lighting for Saturday Night Live, Seth Meyers and The Tonight Show. He did all the
wow.
lighting. So he would always say to me, I'm doing live shows on Saturday night and you're thinking 2 years ahead. I don't know how you do that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm always thinking 2 years ahead.
Right. Right.
So-
How much input does the board have in what music selected?
Well, we approve the repertoire that Janet presents to us, but it's really up to her.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever
You got to leave it
objected.
to the professionals.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I don't think we've ever objected to anything that
Sure.
that she has
Well, that's what
suggested.
you hired her for.
Exactly.
To make those decisions.
She's the artistic director.
Right.
Yeah, but this board is really, I've worked with a lot of orchestras. This is a really great board in a lot of ways. They're opinionated. They have strong opinions about things. And they don't always agree, but they agree to disagree, if you know what I mean. They're hardworking. They always have support. If something, like I said, we should have t-shirts, boom, the next month t-shirts are made.
Wow.
They're like amazing. And I've worked with boards of much bigger orchestras with much bigger budgets, and it's not quite the same. So I'm really grateful about that. It makes my job really nice.
That's awesome. So what about do you want to talk about the gala?
The gala, I can mention it. Yeah, we're having a fundraising gala. It's going to be a week from Sunday on April 14th.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the local home of Michael and Christine Schrader. It's strictly a fundraiser. It should be a fun event. I think today was supposed to be the deadline for buying tickets, but if somebody still wants to buy tickets, we would gladly let them buy tickets. We still have room in the event. We're going to have a pianist playing background music, some really nice hors d'oeuvres and wine. So it'd be a great event if anybody else wants to come and join us and support the symphony.
Now, as far as tomorrow goes, tell our audience again how they can get tickets.
How they
for
can
that.
get tickets, sure. You can go to sedonasymphony.org and purchase your tickets there. Or you can also buy them at the door. The concert's at 2:30 tomorrow at Sedona Performing Arts Center.
Right. That's fantastic. I want to take this opportunity to put in a request.
Okay.
My wife, as I may have told you when we've talked before, is a huge fan of the Wagner Ring Cycle.
Okay. So we'll be doing that
So-
in 2027.
By the way, she also is a sponsor of the Live at the Met.
Live at the Met, yeah.
At the film festival.
That's awesome.
She's one of the sponsors. So I occasionally go with her.
Does she just love opera?
She loves opera. I will go with her occasionally if it's something that is in my wheelhouse. Like Madame Butterfly, I'm there. We went to see the new Carmen, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I
I didn't see that one.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think of the recent opera?
Well, I think, first of all, Live from the Met has brought in so many thousands of people
Oh, yeah.
loving, and also when you go and the camera's right in their face and you can see their teeth and everything, it's amazing to be so up close
Yeah,
at the
that's
Live
right.
from the
I
Met.
know.
So I do like that, but I love to go to the Met. I mean, as a New Yorker, when we were young, every year at Christmas, there would be envelopes on the Christmas tree, and my brothers would get like Knicks tickets and I would get like opera and ballet tickets, So I grew up going to stuff my whole
You
life.
had me at Knicks tickets, by the way.
Yeah. Knicks tickets.
Well, this has been a great show. You've both been incredible guests. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank my guest, Jana Himes, the artistic director and conductor of the Sedona Symphony, and Sue Buffum, the current president of the Sedona Symphony, for being here. Thanks so much for coming. I want to thank my special guests. I want to thank my sponsor, Damien and Danielle Sedona Real Estate Group. You want to seek them out for your real estate needs because their devotion to the community and experience matter. Thanks to Chuck Hulstein manning the booth today. By the way, tell your friends who couldn't hear the show today that they can listen to a podcast version anytime on Apple Podcasts. That'll be up probably by the end of the day today, as soon as my baseball game is over. And you can email me with comments and questions to Stephen@mellowmountainradio.com. Please tune in next Saturday morning when the show's topic will be an issue that Sedona and Verde Valley residents are dealing with right now and will be all through the spring and summer. Critters and insects. In the studio will be someone who can take care of your gopher problems and someone who can handle those pesky termites. Steve Martin of Critter Control and Tim Warren of Mammoth AZ.